Hello, my name is Sam Husseini. Usually I write at Substack, husseini.substack.com, but for various reasons, I think it makes sense for me to just do what I hope is a quick commentary here on Independence Day, so-called. America 250 is the big headline most everywhere I look, and I think it's an insidious, huge lie. To call the United States of America, America, is either profound thoughtlessness or outright imperial arrogance. This has been noted for well over 100 years. Frank Lloyd Wright was perhaps the most famous person to adopt the term Usonia for the United States of America when referring to things exclusive to the United States, because otherwise America means Brazil and Mexico and Venezuela and so on and so forth. The term actually began as Usona, as in United States of North America, but was then modified to say Usonia, which refers to United States of Independent America. Now, probably what was meant there was independent from Imperial Great Britain. Now, there's much to argue that the United States was founded on imperial precepts beyond being an obvious offshoot of Imperial England. But as others have noted, text in the Declaration of Independence, referring to domestic insurgents and savage natives, adopts a imperial mindset. And this extends, for example, most obviously with the Star-Spangled Banner in the War of 1812, referring to the hireling and the slave. And Star-Spangled Banner origin also has anti-Muslim aspects to it. So there's sort of a case to be made that the imperial project was furthered by the independence of the United States from England, such as it is. But I don't think at a deep level that they are genuinely independent. I genuinely feel at a deep level that the United States, England, and Israel and other entities are in effect part of a imperial mesh, and that nation states are in a sense a facade or a public relations operation. And I think we see that most clearly now becoming more explicit in a sense with the more extensive integration of the US and Israeli militaries and spook services. There are other aspects that I think warrant deep reflection when we're talking about what the United States is and what it means. You have, for example, the fact that the franchise was expanded. That is, at the beginning of the United States of America, it meant something to be a citizen of the United States of America. You had to be a white male property owner, but it actually meant something. It meant you had some genuine sense of representation in the government and in the broader society. As the franchise was expanded to include black men and women and so on and so forth, it became hollowed out, in my view, and genuine power shifted to corporate power, big money, of course, and then the rise of the military-industrial complex, Wall Street, Federal Reserve, now big tech, and the deep state, CIA, NSA, so on and so forth, where power largely resides. That power, and that is also tied, again, to the global structure of the imperial apparatus. So the U.S. establishment cooperates with the Israeli establishment against the will of a large chunk, if not a majority, of the U.S. public. One ironic aspect of all of this is that as the franchise expanded in its most idealistic phase, I would regard this as part of what I would call Usonia, that is, a country of the people that conforms to laws and represents things like Main Street and so on and so forth. As the franchise expanded, it was used and manipulated by the American empire. That is, that you had civil rights used as a weapon in the Cold War. You had feminism used and instrumentalized to justify the invasion of Afghanistan. You had feminism used, it certainly benefited people in many respects, especially women, but it also helped corporate power in that it flooded the workforce and therefore, in many respects, helped corporate power in some respects. So you have this constant tension between what I call the Usonian Republic and the American Empire, with the American Empire perverting any seeming advance that the Usonian Republic is able to win. Now, I don't necessarily know the nuances of every chapter of U.S. history well enough to know what was intentional and what wasn't intentional, but I think that those outcomes are fairly apparent and I think underappreciated. One of the main mechanisms of rendering the franchise largely ineffectual is the duopoly, so that people keep getting behind Trump or Obama or whoever is next on the queue and thinking that they're going to break meaningfully with the establishment, but they just end up going down a garden path that brings them back into the establishment. So I view with extreme skepticism the much advanced and ballyhooed electoral wins, a handful, of Democratic Socialists of America. They actually use the imperial term effectively. I would contrast this with it's called Green Party USA, for example. So that's one particularly pernicious method of ideological control, and I've advanced the vote pact, which tries to get disenchanted Democrat, disenchanted Republican to pair up and both vote for pro-peace, pro-liberty, anti-genocide candidates. We now see talk of a We the People party by Tucker Carlson and Marjorie Taylor Greene. I would more than welcome people converting from the past insidious stances of Tucker Carlson and Marjorie Taylor Greene. But again, I would view this with extreme skepticism, given their histories and given their recent actions. Why would Marjorie Taylor Greene resign from Congress only to start another party other than to defuse the possibility of having a more authentic party that is genuinely going to take on empire? And I think that the way that empire is taken on is the deep critical question of our time. The American empire needs to be ended as quickly and peacefully as possible. And that needs to happen through concerted effort and analytical action. That means, among other things, vote pact and scrutinizing each of these political players who pretend to be rescuing the people, but are they? I think that people have to take control of their own tongues. And to go back to the beginning, it's a simple proposition to be saying Usonia rather than America when that's what you actually mean. And unless people are able to do that, we're going to be in deep trouble. Allen Ginsberg prophesied the death of America. And I think that that's inevitable. But what does it mean? And I think it could mean something very great and glorious and peaceful, and a rebirth of something far better. If that doesn't happen, then the end of America may well either never come, and empire will continue and effectively enslave humanity in many ways. in the name, the false name of freedom and all of these things, or it will be a cataclysmic, horrific end.